Well, hello there. Welcome to the Dana Spencer Show, where we talk about solving problems, building relationships, quitting corporate, and the freedom to walk in your God given purpose. So, how are we feeling out there? I hope you were able to get out and get some exercise and get some sun. So, I hope you're feeling amazing today and your day is off to a fabulous start. And I'm super excited today because I have with me Mrs. Ideisha Bellamy. Y'all show her some love out there. Woo woo! Yay! Yay. So we're just gonna jump right in.
Sure.
So tell me, how were you able to allow your path to cross with investing in real estate?
Sure. So my path was certainly not a path that I would have chosen for myself, but my father was killed in a workplace accident
Mm.
back in 2011.
Mhm.
And there was a small benefit that came from that to our family. And my mindset was at the time, I'll just give each one of my kids a graduation gift from their grandfather when they graduated from high school. I have 5 kids.
Okay.
And it sounded like a good plan at the time. And so I just held that as the plan. And then my first child graduated from high school. And then I learned the kind of decisions that 18-year-olds make. And I thought, you know what, this is not a good plan. So I revamped the plan and decided that I would invest in real estate. And my goal was, and has sort of always been my goal, that I would purchase one door for each one of my kids. And when they were of age and it was appropriate to transfer that on to them, that I would either give it to them or they could rent it or whatever they wanted to do for themselves. But I said that I would just expand on the gift that their grandfather left behind for them. And that is where I got my start in real estate investing. That was back in 2016, I believe.
Okay.
And we started that process, made my first purchase at auction. And that has just sort of been my path of what led me into that.
Oh wow. So when people ask me if they should purchase an auction property, I completely deter them from doing that. So tell us about that first experience
Oh,
purchasing
yes.
an auction as your first
Very first
toe
property.
into investing in real estate.
Yes, it's so funny that you say that because I had, I thought that I had a wonderful plan. I had a bid in mind for a property. It was a 1 bedroom condo. It was in great condition. I had sort of been looking through the windows and all that. Couldn't get inside, obviously.
Right,
Looking through
right.
the windows, scoping the neighborhood. And I went in and bid on this property. I bid it against another gentleman and won, and was very excited that I won. I had done all of my homework, so I was prepared to make the purchase. I knew I had a certain amount of time to redeem the sale, to take possession of the property. I had about 30 days. So I did my auction, put my 10% down or whatever, and walked away with my paperwork. I took the paperwork. I literally left auction and took the paperwork to a local bank, and they looked at the deal and they were like, "This isn't a flood zone." And we don't lend. I was so excited about getting something on a small amount, and they said, "We don't lend on real estate for this amount of money. Like, it's not a large enough loan, and it's in a flood zone." So I've been married. I'm married for over 20 years now. And this was a project that my husband was like, go for it. He wasn't involved or anything. So I went home that day and literally took to the bed. I was like, I do not know what I've done. I don't have, the money to redeem this deal. I'm on the hook for this. It's in a flood zone. I called about flood insurance. The flood insurance was going to be more than the payment. So I had clearly backed myself into a corner. And so took to the bed that weekend, prayed about it. And then the following Tuesday, our home phone rang, which, even then it's kind of unusual. Your home phone doesn't really ring. And I normally really wouldn't answer it. And it was the gentleman that had lost the bid. And he said, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to sell me that bid because I really want that property. And he told me a story about what he wanted it for. And he made me an offer like, let's see, to kind of simplify it. Oh, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars and you give me the bid and you go away. And when he told me what the amount was, plus I was going to get my 10% back, I would have made a few $1,000s on a bad deal over a weekend, basically, about 5 or 6 days. And so I took him up on the offer. I sold him the bid and I never walked in that property. I never redeemed that bid. He went on. I hope he loves it. I hope you still have it and you love that property. But it was a bad deal for me. I did not know what I was doing, but I made money. And you make a few $1,000s off of a bad deal like that. You're thinking, if I can do this not knowing anything, how much can I do if I really get in and I really start to study and apply myself and learn from these mistakes and build those banking relationships. And so that was my first deal. I'm like you, I don't recommend making your first deal at auction. It worked for me, but I definitely don't recommend it.
Wow, that the Lord was just all in that.
Yes, he
Like,
was.
I'm just gonna rescue my child from what she went at. So, had you been reading books on real estate, or listening to podcasts, or had a mentor, or any of that? Or you just like, I'm gonna go to the auction and buy a property?
Yeah, no, I wasn't that bad. I had spent some time with oh gosh. Well, I have a mentor. I had a mentor at the time, Tony Silver, who now has Red Door Properties. Hey, Tony. Always appreciate all of the learning that I've gotten from him. He also was sort of like bigger pockets. Like, you just get on bigger pockets and learn everything that you can possibly learn. So I think in the beginning, it was a lot of internet study, self-study, bigger pockets, and what I was getting from him in terms of coaching,
Okay.
mentoring.
So the Lord took away that first deal. You're able to make a little bit of money. It's almost like you wholesale that particular property, because you just sold it to him and then you just walked away.
Yes, assigned the bid to him. He said, meet me over at my attorney. I'll write you a check. Plus, I'll give you your 10% back, and you never have to do anything else. You don't have to go to the courthouse. You don't have to. I was like, I didn't know you could do this.
Right.
But yeah, I assumed he redeemed it and went on. I never heard anything else about it, so I'm sure he did. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Welcome to real estate. Okay, so that was your first deal. So since you made a little bit of money, you're like, okay, if I made all these mistakes and I was still able to make money, what will happen if I really learn how to do this? So Absolutely. What was your next move?
Well, during that time that I was studying, I had started to get on all of the websites and the listservs for all of the wholesalers in the area. I had started attending CREA as well. My second deal was a duplex. And it was very odd. I had been studying and keeping up with things, and this is sort of like just a terrible inroad, but there was an incident that happened next door to a building that was up for sale. And it was a very tragic incident. It involved the landlord of that building. And so instantly, I think the wholesaler that was holding it, which was out of state, just kind of like was trying to dump it. And we went over and took a look at it. I was on crutches at that point. I had taken a fall and was on crutches. And my husband's cousin Tony met me over there, and I'm like hobbling around, and he's like, "This is a good opportunity." So I bought a duplex in Shively, and we worked together to rehab that duplex, and we put renters in that. And I've had that ever since. That was also in 2016. I've had that property ever since.
Okay, do you mind sharing some numbers with us? So, like, how much did you purchase the duplex for?
Right at $59,900.
Okay, and then how much did you have to put into it?
Probably around $30,000.
Okay, so you're all in at about 90, and you have 2 tenants in there now.
Yes, 90 feels high now, but yeah, I have 2 tenants there now. I have my original tenant there. I have another tenant there. And they pay the mortgage, and there's a little bit that's left over from there.
Oh, nice. Okay. So that's amazing. Okay. Yeah. Have you gotten that property appraised recently?
I would say appraisal wise, I'm also a realtor. I would think it would come in at about 200 because they're separately metered. It's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. They both have laundry rooms. They have separate driveways. They're side by side duplexes, which I really prefer. They've been completely redone, the hardwood floors, ceramic tile floors, and it's done really well in Shively. It's under rented. For the most part, I rent to seniors, and I'm very modest in how I increase rents and things. Everything that I've ever purchased is on fixed rate. And so that's sort of a plus and a minus. It allows me some comfort, but then sometimes it allows me to get a little lackadaisical about increases because I know the expenses on that property. So, it's performed really well for me, and it'll be one that I hold on to. When I say separately metered, I know you know this, but like your duplex is often the landlord is going to pay the water bill and sometimes the LG&E. I don't pay any utilities on that building. So that makes it more attractive. And that's why I think it would definitely probably be in the 200, 220 range. And I'm probably being modest there.
Right. And so
Mhm.
you manage your own property?
I do. So I select all of my own tenants. I've tried a few times these different angles of property management, and it hasn't worked well for me. During this process, I got my real estate license, and so I'm qualified to manage those properties. I was managing them before that. But I have a background in operations and compliance. And so I really built out my entire system. I do my own bookkeeping, I do my own leasing, I do my own annual renewals, I do all of the property management associated with it.
Well, and I'm an avid believer that how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mm.
And there are so many skill sets from corporate that will transfer very nicely over into investing in real estate. So, did
Mm-hmm.
you work corporate prior to getting your real estate license?
Um, Yes, I did. Well, I have about a 10-year career in state government with the Office of Inspector General. And so those were skills around really just paying attention to details, reading paperwork,
Mm.
knowing how to maneuver through regulations, and also a lot of things around health and safety, being able to assess whether or not a physical environment is healthy and safe for people. I did a lot of licensing inspections of different daycares throughout the state, and so I have a really good eye for being able to keep up with things like, is the water heater looking like it's set up safely? Are there carbon monoxide detectors in place? Do I hear something chirping? I have a
Mm.
real solid eye for those kind of things. From there, I went into compliance. I went into healthcare compliance for United Health Group.
Okay.
And so I do have a lot of years of that. And I think I have a general, everyone's different. I have a general sort of real concern for people in general. And so I always want to make sure that we're providing safe, comfortable, and affordable housing to folks. And so that's a real sort of undertone to the way that we approach things. So I probably, I know that there are probably some areas where I could be a little bit more aggressive in how I move, but I feel really comfortable in the model that I've built.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
I hear you. So, in terms of taking that leap from you were doing all the state regulations and all of that, and you are investing in real estate on the side, or
Hmm.
have you taken the leap? What does that look like for you?
Hmm. So I have continued to grow. I did some flips. I really had kind of expanded and owned both in Louisville and in Southern Indiana. And that has done really well. I never, again, sort of going into this, my mindset was around my kids. So I never went into this to build an income for myself. And for a long time, I never paid myself off of my real estate. I just sort of cycled things back in, made investments, tried to acquire more and more. Back in 2019, I went to work as a chief operating officer for a local nonprofit, a good sized nonprofit. And that work was going to be really intense. So I kind of just hit pause on everything.
Mm.
I had a good sized apartment building in New Albany. I sold that because it was sort of my time suck in terms of management. And so I just put everything in a whole pattern. And I worked at Maryhurst all the way up until last year. And then I decided that I wanted to make the leap to focus on actually becoming a consultant. And what I realized one day when I looked at my portfolio is that it gave me the freedom to make that decision.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just had never looked at it that way. I never thought, well, I'm going to live off of it and that kind of thing. And yeah, that pretty much one day I just sort of looked at all the numbers and I'm like, wait a minute, like it was a very time intensive job. It was taking me away from my family quite a bit. And to know that I had the freedom to be able to make that move was it was really pretty unbelievable.
Right. And that's what we talk about here on the Dana Spencer Show is real estate gives you options.
Mhm.
So if you're in corporate America and you have this good job and it's paying the bills and you're able to walk in your purpose with that job, more power to you. However, there's a lot of people out here who are frustrated
Mhm.
and that job is not allowing them to live their purpose. And
Mhm.
so I actually met a lady that said, retirement is a number, not an age. And
Mhm.
so if you calculate your expenses
Mhm.
and you're able to have that money passively that will cover your expenses, then you get to decide when you want to retire instead of somebody dictating to you when
Absolutely.
you want to retire. Or if you want to go work for a nonprofit or whatever, you just have the options, and that's what real estate really, really does. So I'm super excited that you were able to recognize this. Now, you said your husband was on board from the very beginning.
Um, I would not say he was. I would say he was sort of. Our relationship has always been where I'm the one that sort of like makes the strategic money moves. And so the trust was there. I had sort of proven myself that that we could make moves, and that I could maximize his income in my own. He wasn't really involved. He was just sort of, his job was also extremely busy. He's an athletic director. He works off until, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And so he would listen to the stories. He would come to the closings. There were a few times where I felt like it was getting on his nerves. You know what I mean? And we had our difficult conversations around that. In 20, let's see, at the start of the pandemic, when everybody went home, that gave him more time to sort of look at what had been built. And I kind of did some refinancing moves around that time that allowed us to pay off all of our student loans.
Okay.
And I wasn't prepping him for that really. Just one day I was like, I think we're going to go ahead and pay off your student loan and my student loan. And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, like there's a way that we can rearrange this so that we can start to look more decent on our own. He's a teacher. He started as a teacher. Like I said, we were raising 5 kids. Those student loans just felt like they were going to be with us forever. And so the day that I was able to pay those off, I think is when he really was like, holy crap, like, that whole sense of appreciation and all of that just really impacted us well. And that was when, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's like, I'm ready to buy again. I'm like, whoa, I don't know that I'm ready right now. But he really at that point sort of bought in, and that's not a knock in any way. He was just busy, and what he does allowed us to really have that stable income to provide to a bank to say, because it couldn't have been built otherwise. Like somebody had to have that steady, solid, W-2 income to get us started. Now he's very much in. We work together on managing the properties, and I bounce things off of him, but we're really at a maintenance phase right now. We have not been growing or making new acquisitions. I'm not planning to this year. We bought one last year.
Okay, so in terms of somebody out there who just feels like student loan debt is just like the devil, like just weighing them down, and that's all they can think about. What are a couple of ideas that you can give to our listeners who maybe are underneath student loan debts and it's just killing them?
I think, take advantage of all of the programs that they're trying to put out now around loan forgiveness, around adjusting your payments and all of that. If you're going to use real estate as a model, you really have to create your own lane. I mean, to me, that was what was effective for me. I did letter writing. I drove for dollars. I had the conversations. I hustled. Like, if you believe that you're going to get into real estate by just looking at the MLS and buying something, at retail price, you're never going to get free. Like, you have to really get in and have those conversations. I mean, I think my first purchase was probably my most expensive purchase. Like, I worked backwards from there and was like, and I think knowing your skills too. Like, I use Tony as an example, and I tell this to him all the time as well. Like, he has a skill set to be able to fix things. So he might look at something and say, oh, well, these cabinets can go in and they'll be X dollars. Well, if it doesn't work out that way, Tony has a skill set that on a night, if he has time, he can hang those cabinets. I can't. And so I had to negotiate from my skill sets and what I knew I was able to do. What does that mean? It means that the same property is a good deal for him, might not be a good deal for me based on price, because he can make something work that I can't. He's got tremendous remodeling skill sets. He can save a deal in that way. The only thing that I had to really work with is my skills around like details and my ability to negotiate. And so that's what I built on, is the ability to like have a conversation, get to somebody's pain point, and negotiate a strong price. And then I work backwards from there, because I have to pay to have those things done. So I need to be prepared to do that.
Right.
But I think in terms of student loans in general, like, it's just, there's no real secret to it. But I do know, I've seen one solid deal can change your life. But you got to go out there and find it. If it was easily available, everybody would be doing it.
Right. So you said you went driving for dollars, you wrote letters. So did you dabble a little bit in wholesaling?
I did not. Everything that I did, I was looking for myself. I knew what I wanted. I drove by the neighborhoods and houses that I wanted. I really haven't gotten into sort of this sense of collaboration or being a service to other people. I probably could. There are some areas that I'm strong at around real estate now, but no, I was always just looking for myself.
And how did you decide? Because I tell people all the time, you need to narrow down to one or two specific zip codes, one or two specific areas, so that you are able to analyze properties quickly,
Hmm.
because a 3 bedroom, 2 bath in 40216 is very different from a 3 bedroom, 2 bath in 40203. Like, it's
Hmm.
just totally different. So I don't want you to be like looking in Louisville and it's too hard to analyze at that point.
Absolutely. My budget decided for me. Like, I mean, I just sort of knew what I could afford to spend and I knew what was selling where. Now, I did have one deal in J Town. And in that situation, I actually found my own private money lender and did a flip in that area. But if it had not been for another woman in real estate trusting me and writing the check and saying, let's go, I would not have been in J Town doing deals. Like, I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was just beyond my price point. I started out in the Southwest Louisville, Shively area. I would say I'm 99% in the West Corridor. So I do New Albany, West Louisville, and Shively.
Okay, okay. And no
Hmm.
shade on Kentucky or Indiana, but Kentucky versus Indiana, where do you prefer to invest?
If I could own everything in New Albany, I would. I really would. In terms of how landlord friendly they are, how
Oh.
accessible, and not in an unfair way, but they are accessible. If you need to talk to the director of the New Albany Housing Authority, it's just a phone call. He answers the phone. And so he, and I'm not a big time landlord in that area. They're just accessible people. The model is a little bit different over there. And, if I could own everything over there, I would, just because the government's accessibility, the ability to navigate through the city, and the way it's growing is very predictable. The crime rate. So that's my preference. But, I don't know that I'll be making that move.
That is so very interesting because I've seen the way they built up 10th Street. And I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like, no shade, but Indiana did a much better job with the walking bridge. What they've done, the housing and the development
Yes.
on
Oh,
that side.
that cuts. Yeah. I had a great deal in my grasp on right literally 2 blocks from where they built on the Jeffersonville side, that whole walking bridge. And I chickened out. And I am notorious for that. I'm a very conservative. I'm like the whole opposite of these folks that are out here that are crushing it. Like, I'm working my model in just a very different way. I had that in my grasp and it was $99,000. It was a triplex, maybe a quad. It's got to be worth. I drove by it. Someone else picked it up. You can't even recognize it. And I know that I could have done that, but I just chickened out because of the price point. At the time, I wanted to be anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 a door on a
Mm.
single family, but I just chickened out. And I've done that more than once, and I've kicked myself every time. It's painful.
Yes, because I'm just thinking about that area and
If I owned it now, oh my
it's
gosh.
easily
Hmm.
okay. And I won't even spit out a number because I'm notorious for spitting out numbers.
Yeah,
So the chicken out, and you have this process, sounds like.
I do.
So once you follow your process and it's a good deal, you execute.
Not always, because I'm not just looking at, and again, like I'm building something sort of as a mom, you know what I mean, as a wife. I never really approached this and thought this is going to be my business, this is going to be my life. So these are like small investment decisions that I'm making one to one. I mean, we have more than 5 doors now, and but the way that you analyze it from mine is not always as black and white as this is a good number, let's go.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's about timing. Sometimes it might be, well, so and so's graduating from 8th grade at the end of the summer, and am I going to have time? Or, like there's just a lot of other factors that can I get it done quickly? What about my contractors? Where are they at in the process? Is this something that would have to sit? Will they be willing to drive to Jeffersonville? It was things like, okay, my contractors might go to New Albany because they don't have to deal with all that toll stuff, and they're on the west
Mm.
side corridor. Are they going to come back east and deal with the toll in downtown Jeffersonville and all that? So it's a lot more than just black and white numbers for me.
Okay.
And then there is the factor that I will chicken out. I will find something like I can remember a great opportunity that I had, and when we had it inspected, it had termites, and I was just like, oh well, no, I can't. What? Like, it's fixable. Like, it's fixable. But I had no point of reference for that,
Hmm.
and so for me, the house might as well have been imploding because it came back and said that they had termites.
So the next time you find a deal and you're checking out, call me, okay?
I
Go ahead and call
probably
me.
need to do that. Yes, I probably do.
And I have, to your point, so I have corporate background and I do have my Excel spreadsheet, and I do have where I can play around with the asking price,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to see how it directly correlates with your profit.
Mm-hmm. It sure does. That's where you make your money. You make your money at the time at the time that you purchase is where you make your money.
And people used to say that all the time when I would go to Korea, and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "You make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy." And I was like, "What does that even mean?"
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized what it means, because obviously, if you pay too much for a property on the front end, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to make money quickly. I mean, you probably can over time if you have the time to hold it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's crazy. So, how important are relationships in real estate?
Mm-hmm. Um, they're very important. In fact, I mean, it really is just a relationship business. We have a good team of contractors that we use. We express a lot of gratitude to our contractors. We send out Christmas gifts. If somebody's wife is having a baby, we're sending out diapers. If they don't raise their prices, like one of our folks that we used for a long time, we were in a relationship and he hadn't really come back to us and said, it's probably time for me to tick this up a little bit. We voluntarily are like, hey, like this year we're going to make sure that you get an increase for the services you provide, because we know that the cost of everything is going up. And it's the same with tenants. For the most part, I really try to select people that present as reasonable people that I can work with. And in that vein, like, I mean, we don't send gifts to our tenants or anything like that, but we are very responsive to the people that we're in relationship with. And so if something's not working, we are very responsive. We are very active in our communication. If something's out, I'm going to say, hey, like, I've made this call. This is who's coming. This is when they're coming. I apologize. It looks like it's going to be 24 hours that you're going to be inconvenienced with this. I don't always apologize, but I try to acknowledge the inconvenience, but I also try to work with really reasonable and responsible people that have their own sort of sense of right and wrong and how they're approaching things. I don't deal with any contractors that cut corners or scammy or trying to, beat inspections or stuff like that. I don't do that. And your team is bigger than just contractors. It is, the relationship you have with your post office box people. It's the relationship that you have at the post office. It's the relationship that you have with your tax preparer. It's the relationship that you have with people who maybe reach out to you and you don't have a unit available for them at the time, but maybe you connect them with somebody else who does. And so, you're being a help in both aspects. Now, I have not ever used my real estate license to be public facing, but I really try to treat people well. And I have found that works out well for us. And I also really try to be a connector. So if I learn about resources that don't fit what I'm looking for, I always try to think about, well, who might this be helpful for? And that seems to help as well.
And so, obviously the $1 million question is, where do you find contractors? So where are you able to find these reliable contractors?
Well, one thing that I do is every time that I see a truck or whatever, I take a picture of it. I'm storing phone numbers. At the time that I was really actively rehabbing things, I went to the Lowe's at 7 in the morning when I
Mm-hmm.
know that the folks who are actually working are rolling in to get their supplies. I also have built enough relationships with other folks in the community that are your heavy hitter investors that they have a little pity on me because they know my portfolio is small. So if I call and say, hey, I'm struggling, I really need a plumber, they're like, all right, I'm going to give you my person's number. But, that's where the relationships come in, and trying to be a help to them when I can, so that when I have to call. So it's just been through relationships. Um, keeping track of those relationships and being kind and thoughtful towards people, and not just always about what can you do for me. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get rich or this or that. I even have some contractors that have wanted to get into real estate. And, I've tried to be a help in that way. Like I may have, a painter that's like, I really want to buy a property one day. Okay, well, like you can always pick my brain, or here's some people that you should know, or here's a meetup group that you should check out. Because if it goes well for them, it goes well for me.
Right. Okay. And so you have 5 kids. So are any of them interested in real estate?
No. There's been a lot of pros to the exposure that they've had, though, and I'm okay with that, because what it has allowed is for us to have conversations that we would not have had if I was not in these spaces. I also have like little bitty kid photos of them working in the yard or helping get old wallpaper off of the walls. Like they've learned some skills. I also will pay them in times when it's something that they can do. And so that's been nice, because we've been able to be a blessing to our kids and other people's kids. If it's a clean out and I don't feel like it's unsafe, maybe it was just an elderly person or something, then hey, I don't mind paying you on. That puts money in your pocket. It's also given them a lot of opportunity to see. Like this morning I was working on a few leases and I was complaining about some things. I have a tenant that just insists on his annual lease, and I'm like, sir, I promise you are fine. He's like, oh no, I want my annual lease. I'm like, sir, it says month to month, and I want it. It's every July 1st, and I don't know. I got my call. I got my reprimand of like, so this morning I'm a little bit like, I don't have time for this, but those things, it's important to him, and so I'm not gonna just be like, I'm not gonna do it, because I don't want him to feel uneasy for a year and then go start looking for something else. But in terms of the kids, they've had a lot of exposure and they've been blessed. I mean, they will be able to benefit from that. I have 2 that are going to college in the fall, and we're leaning on them to work as hard as they can to get scholarships. But at the end of the day, it's put resources within our grasp that if they are serious, we can meet them where they are and be able to assist. Maybe not all of it, but we are able to assist. I don't know that any of them will want to take possession of what I built and like continue it on before me. Most of them will say, I would never do that. But we'll see once they start to see, what it pays to go work for JCPS or wherever they're going. They might change their mind.
Right. So you got 2 going off to college. So
Yes.
Are you considering buying property where they are going to college and potentially doing something creative, like, buy a 3-4 bedroom, one of your children lives in one of the bedrooms, and then rent out to the other college students for the other bedrooms? I know when I was in college, the roommates was the biggest part of the problem. So being able to select your roommates would be amazing. So have you ever thought about doing something like that?
I haven't. And I think one thing for me that it's important that I share is really around quality of life. And
Sure.
so the real estate decisions that I make always have to be vetted through a sense of, is this going to increase my stress or decrease my stress? And in the case of them going away to school, I have friends, I don't know, the Georges, Christina and Eric, I think it's Eric George, they did student housing for a long time. And so I've gotten to see other people do it, and I'm like, I don't know that that's a model that I really want to wade into. Maybe I can just do a smart deal here that will offset what they need there. But the idea of managing college students and managing a property 90 miles away when my contractors are here, I don't know that it's a good model for me at this time. But I do think that it's really important, anyone going into this work, if you're picking something that makes your life harder, you need to think twice.
Yeah, because like you said, we got into real estate to potentially get passive income and to make, a lot of money, and then it not to be stressful. But what I'd like to tell people too is that real estate is about solving problems, right? And if you can surround yourself with the people who can help you solve those problems, a good general contractor, a good real estate agent, a good attorney, a good accountant, and
a good property manager.
Definitely a good security team, because your house will get broken into.
Yes.
So just somebody that can help you to solve those problems quickly, and you don't have time to dwell on it, right? Because you got new problems today that you don't have time to dwell on yesterday's problems. So the more you can surround yourself with the people who can help you solve those problems, the easier real estate is.
Absolutely. And I think just knowing that there are so many models out there are so many different ways for you to get into real estate and to touch this business and to benefit from it. So, there's just a million different ways. And I'm continuing to learn the ways that folks do things, the ways that people are structuring deals today, because people are so creative and things that they, if I'm not up on it month over month, I feel like I need like a whole re-education, because people are doing new things with their IRAs, and people are, structuring, the subject to deals differently. And so there's always a way, and you don't necessarily have to have a lot of money, but you do have to put in the work.
So what would you say? I totally lost my train of thought.
Okay.
So
Take a sip here.
yeah, go ahead and take a sip. Oh my goodness, I was totally going someplace with that. Oh, what made you get your real estate license?
Um, well, why did I want? Well, first thing was I wanted access to the MLS.
Okay.
I'm a curious person. I don't ever want to feel like there's a realm of something that I don't know about. Like I really like to have all of the information. So it started out, I wanted access to the MLS. I wanted to know the right kinds of forms that you can use. I wanted to know the resources that realtors had available to them. And I wanted to go all through that book and learn it. And so I did that. Subsequently, I've experienced like tax benefits from the realtor portion of what I do. My CPA is like, "Don't you ever let that license go."
Really?
Yeah. So she feels that I'm reaping some tax benefits by me being a CPA. I'm sorry, by me being a realtor, and I don't know. I've just kind of I earned it, and so I haven't let it go. And that's sort of where we are. Once I start to list, I do have one of my properties that I'm probably going to list in the next year, and so to be able to have control over that is sort of up my alley. I am not an extremely outgoing person in terms of like drumming up business for myself or anything like that. So I don't think that I'll ever be the person that is like out helping first time home buyers buy a home. That's not really my jam. And at my age, I really am just very focused on a high quality of life, plenty of time with my kids, and the ability to wake up day over day and decide what my day can be. Whether that, I mean, I think it was Wednesday, we had the opportunity to go to the pool at 11 o'clock in the morning. Like, I could have never dreamed that for myself, to just sit by the pool and watch my kid play at 11 o'clock in the morning. And so those things are really important to me. So I don't know that I'll go much further with my real estate license, but I do appreciate having it and having access to the information.
Right. So you got 2 going off to college, so 3 at home. So what does the next 5 years look like for you?
I actually have three that are adults, and I'm down to my 15-year-old and 10-year-old that will be at home in the fall. Um, I really don't know. I'm actually going to a conference in November to kind of spend some time on visioning the next 5 years. My husband will be eligible to retire in 3. And so we're really excited and looking forward to what that's going to mean. We've talked about whether or not we're going to stay in the Louisville area. And so we actually are going in November to Life on Air, Get a Life conference, to spend time just visioning what the next 5 years will be. So I'll have to come back and tell you
For sure.
maybe at the end of the year.
That's super cool. I was talking to a lady who always has a 5-year plan. And I'm one of these people who is like, I don't like goals. I don't like all that stuff because, I don't achieve them. So why make them? But that was me in college. Now I do understand the importance of goal setting, because if you don't shoot for something, then you end up like la la land, right? So I definitely now understand the importance of it. So having a conversation with her really made me think like you really need to settle down on what you want to do over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think probably where I'm at now is just trusting God with that. I have made some plans that were not always, like, I don't know that they really align. So I'm really trying to just spend time with who is it that God is designing me to be in this phase of my life? Who is it that I'm supposed to be helping? And I think even without those 5-year goals, which I know is important, It's really just allowing myself in this phase of my life some grace
Mm.
to just be human and know that I have worth. Just if I don't accomplish anything, that I'm worth something, that I mean something to people. And that's okay. Like, I think for us as women and for us as people of color, we feel a lot of pressure to perform
Mm.
all the time, to be excellent, to be better than the next person. And that can lead to some of this, or at least it has in me. So I'm just giving myself a little bit of time to just be and know that God's not done with me. And on a day to day, I think, and I know you're the same way, like I have values and things that I live by, and I'm always asking that God will use me. And so, in the immediate, as things come up, I'm just jumping in and helping in the ways that I can. I do, a lot of volunteer work, and I do work with nonprofits to help people build and sustain effective nonprofits. And so, we'll just see. I'm excited to see. But if I have no plan, I trust him. And, they say what, just enough light for the step you're on.
Mm.
And I'm okay with that for right now.
Oh wow, that is so good. That is so good. I love that because I'm working too on listening more to the spirit as opposed to I'm just doing whatever. Oh, I want to go to this summit. I want to go to this conference. I want to. Dana, it was so good. God is so amazing that I was going to go to this conference, and I won't say what the conference was. I wanted to go to the conference, but with me listening to the spirit, I was like, okay, Lord, do you want me to go to this conference? And I kid you not, because this was the week where we usually have a big youth conference at our church. Well, we postponed the youth conference, and I was like, oh,
is this a green light?
And then, no, before the postponement, I get a letter for jury duty.
Oh, wow. Okay. How random is that, right?
Right. And I was like, okay, I got you.
I'm here.
I got you.
Yeah.
So he's just amazing when you just sit still and listen. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect every time, right?
No, yeah.
But just when you have those baby steps where you do listen and you do obey, then you're like, oh, wow, what are you about to do? Because you're about to do something really amazing.
And who knows whose path you might cross during the time that you're here, that was the ordained thing that should have occurred. So, I mean, we're the same way. We were planning for an extended vacation to Puerto Rico, and every